Sorry. I don't want to like pull up and fly out into the audience. All right, that should be okay.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tokyo Bitcoin Meetup Group special event tonight. Tonight, we have panel discussion about Bitcoin Wallet. We have Mr. Adam Trademan from breadwallet from California, who is in town this week. Mr. Ben Smith from Ninki Wallet, and Mr. Jonathan Waller from LUXSTAck. Moderation is done by our senior member in the group, Mr. Jonathan Underwood. As you know, big money is coming into Bitcoin companies. Over the last few months, we have seen Circle got $50 million from Goldman Sachs. Coinbase got $70 million. But those are exchanges, right? So business models for exchange or payment processors, we all familiar with how they make money. They are a bit like ISPs in the 1995, 1996. Today, those ISPs we don't hear about. But real monies are made by companies like Google, Facebook, and so on. Airbnb has become the world's largest hotel, both valuation and number of rooms they manage. Their valuation is $2 billion, $20 billion, and they manage around about 1 million rooms by now, without owning any rooms. And Uber has also become the largest hotel taxi companies without owning any vehicles. So how and who is going to be big in Bitcoin wallet without owning any Bitcoins at all? So before we get started, I would like to introduce our new member, Mr. Dave Smith from Digital Garage, who has kindly provided this space for us. He has some interesting announcements about Bitcoin, as well as some commercials. So I'll hand over to you, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I just have to set up here. Yeah, I mean, commercials are really important, right? They basically run the web as we know now. I'll be there in a second.
Oh, okay.
With ads and stuff like that on Google. So necessary commercials to get everything else going. Okay, so I want to start off tonight just by quickly introducing myself and then giving you guys a little pitch about this space and where you are right now, and kind of let you know what's going on here, and then tell you about some really exciting stuff that we have in the works for the Bitcoin community here in Japan this summer that I really want to tell you about. So Ken, I don't know if I'm going to get in that, but I'm just going to chill out here for a while. So first of all, yeah, my name is Dave. I work for the company that you're in the building of them right now. It's called Digital Garage. We're a 20-year-old company in Japan, internet company. First web server in Japan was built and brought over from Digital Garage. One of the founders is a guy named Joy Ito, who's the head of the MIT Bitcoin Initiative. He's doing a bunch of other stuff at MIT at the Media Lab right now. I'll jump into that in a little while. But one thing that we do is we're a pretty prolific venture capital investment firm. And we invest in Bitcoin companies recently. We invest in a bunch of other companies, mostly in the US and in Japan. For the ones in the US, we help them build a business in Japan. For the ones in Japan, we try to help them go global. And also in Japan, we run an accelerator. And right now you're sitting in one of the 3 accelerator spaces that we have across the world. The other 2 are in Kamakura on the beach and in San Francisco. And so as we're using the the accelerator space tonight. I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of an overview about the accelerator, and then we can jump into the fun stuff with Bitcoin. So our accelerator is called Open Network Lab. I'm going to play these here, and I'll just burn through these and give you guys the important points. As I mentioned, Digital Garage was built by Joy and the current CEO, Hayashi-san, who's upstairs or maybe at the sushi restaurant next door right now. We've incubated a bunch of really interesting companies. We've helped some other ones, move to Japan. So Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We had a hand in helping these companies, build up their business in Japan. Twitter we had a very, our hands really deep into that one. And in Japan, one company that you guys might know that is really a part of the core, social media and then just internet space here is Tabelog. That's also a company that was incubated by Digital Garage, so in-house here. Just gonna burn through these. We have a very large portfolio abroad and here in Japan, 90 companies, 3 Bitcoin companies. And so this space, the open network space, we provide this program, just like a Y Combinator or Accelerator or something like that, based here in Tokyo. We'll probably do it in San Francisco one day, because there's a lot of accelerators out there, so maybe we'll just keep it here. Anyways, we do the traditional model of funding, mentoring, provide community, help the startups with building a business over a 3-month period, and end up with a demo day, curate a lot of VCs to come here and invest in the companies and stuff like that. And actually right now we're accepting applications. This stops at May, but actually it goes to May 18th. We're accepting applications for the next batch, which will start in July. So throughout the entire hot summer, we'll have hopefully 6 or 7 teams in this space, going through the accelerator program again. And actually we haven't had a Bitcoin company up until now, ever. So I'm really excited to give this pitch to the crowd here, because if there is anybody who has a Bitcoin related startup that they want to incubate here within Open Network Lab, we can provide, as I mentioned, funding. We can also provide 1 year of free access to the 3 locations that I had mentioned. This one being one in Concord and San Francisco. Up until now, this is actually something that we're really happy about. We would provide 20,000 US dollars, so about 2 million yen, to the companies, and now we're upping that to up to 10 million yen. So that's much more significant. It can help with hiring and just whatever. There's no limits on what that can be used for. It's just we invest and give that just like Y Combinator again, any of the other accelerators. And then we have mentors such as our CEO, who's built this very large company. Joy comes in and has one-on-one time with all the companies. So a Bitcoin company that would actually probably make him very happy. So you might get some one-on-one time with him. There are other people in the ecosystem here through some of our partner companies. Some of you guys might know Midas on there, and then people who are in our incubation business that have really contributed to some really special companies here in Japan. So it's pretty good access. We also get people from abroad as well. There's a lot more details on the website. And then everybody within who's actually working for Digital Garage, who's spending time every day on helping out these companies. So people who are running the business, myself included. And then there's also a bunch of, I think Amazon Web Services gives each of the Open Network Lab companies $100,000 worth of credit for their cloud computing services. Mixpanel is free for like a year. This is actually quite a lot of money. And then just some other companies that have gone through it before. The combined value is 325 billion yen. That's counting up all the valuations and all that stuff. So just some companies in Japan that have gone through recently. And this is our last batch. We had 6 teams come through here and graduated. Many of them are trying to get funding right now or have been funded. And then our 11th batch, you can apply through May 18th. So that's it. So that's about Open Network Lab. Thanks for listening to the commercial. And now the other thing that I wanted to kind of let everybody know about is, and a few people in the room know now, but and I don't have a formal presentation, so I apologize for that. The website will be up, I think, by the end of this month. But on July 6th, we're going to sponsor a pretty big event here in Tokyo at Portland Hills. And we'll be having the theme is all going to be Bitcoin. We'll be having a lot of people from the Bitcoin community abroad and hopefully here as well. So hopefully you guys as well there. Some of the people, does anybody know who this is just from the picture? It's a Bitcoin core developer. His name is Corey Fields. He just left the Bitcoin Foundation to join the MIT Bitcoin Initiative. He'll be speaking there. We've also got Brian Ford, who just quit. He was at the White House for 4 years. He's now heading up that MIT Bitcoin Initiative and doing a lot of the interfacing between that initiative and the government. So he'll be there as well to speak. Here's a list of some of the other speakers. So we've got Joyce Kim from Stellar. Peter Todd is another Bitcoin core developer who will be there. Jeremy Bonney from CoinDesk. Jerry Brito from the Coin Center in Washington. Ms. Martin is the ex-compliance officer, chief compliance officer for Coinbase. Meg is an entrepreneur that we funded in San Francisco, is making a Bitcoin credit card that you can use to spend your Bitcoin balance. Vincenzo is making a stealth remittance-based company. Melanie Shapiro just debuted at TechCrunch Disrupt, the Case hardware Bitcoin wallet. And Mario is a personal friend from a company called Coin, which is a Singapore-based exchange. Thank you. So yep, and that's it. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. Again, it's on the 6th of July. Everybody's welcome to come. The tickets are a little pricey. We haven't really got the numbers down yet. It's going to be somewhere between $200 and I think $300. But we're going to try to get as much of the Bitcoin community here in Tokyo to join up there. So I'm hoping to get some really deep discounts for that for you guys. And if there's anybody who's interested in, or who knows somebody who might be a good speaker, who's representative of part of the elements of the Bitcoin community here in Japan, we really want to get those people there as well. So please let me know after this, and hopefully we can find some good Bitcoin speakers to kind of push the community here, because we are hoping to get with these speakers quite a number of people from abroad to come over and check out the Bitcoin community here in Tokyo as well. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. Okay, now to get down to the fun part. Hi, my name is Jonathan Underwood. I am the technical advisor at BitBank Inc., and I will be moderating today. So I hope you guys don't get violent at all. We can have a civil discussion. But anywho, I have a couple of prepared questions here. But before we get to that, I would first like to give each one of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves, introduce your company, and anything that you want to demo, present, or speak about. So I guess we'll start with you, Jonathan.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Waller, and I am the VP of Engineering at LUXSTACK. We are working on really looking how we can bring more people into the Bitcoin space. Okay, so how can we bring in the 99% into Bitcoin? We've got 1% Bitcoin community. What are the features that we that we need to really kind of energize everybody else and the incentive to come in? So we are creating a suite of Bitcoin products, and thank you. So we're talking about wallets today. So I'm coming to talk about this is our look at our Bitcoin wallet. We're making it very user friendly. It's very easy to see what's happening, and we're adding the features in that users will expect. So we are adding in push notifications. So when you get Bitcoin to your wallet, sitting in your pocket, it will wobble, and you can see, oh, I got this many bits. Right now, no standalone Bitcoin wallet on iOS or Android does that, but it's something that we think users really expect. Also, we have so we also have web extensions. So when you can install this into Safari or Chrome, and then when you're browsing around the web, maybe you're shopping on a website for cool stuff, and you put it in your cart, and then you come to pay, and the extension will pick up what the payment address and the amount you want to send, and when you hit send, it will signal to your mobile device on iOS and Android, and then from this mobile device, you can then confirm, and that means the private key always stays safe on your mobile device, but you get the convenience of the web as well. And finally, we have one more feature. This one, yeah. So within the wallet, we are allowing people to connect to an exchange and then buy and sell Bitcoin within the wallet. So right now it's connected to Coin, but you can go into the options and you have a selection of exchanges to choose from, and then you pick one of those exchanges, and then from there you can either connect an existing account or create a new account, and then from within the wallet, it will gather up all of the information you need, your home address, you take photos of your passport, things like that, and then that sends it off the exchange, and within 5 to 10 minutes, you'll get a notification back that says, yep, you can now trade. So, and then you've not left the wallet, you've not gone to the website, and you can trade Bitcoin in the wallet. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. All right, so next up is Adam from breadwallet.
Hello, everyone. I think I'm going to stay seated since I'm bound here. That's fine. That's okay. No problem. No problem. We'll relax, right? Greetings, everyone. It's a great opportunity to be here. I'm the co-founder and president of breadwallet. While originally an engineer, I'm not actually involved in the development of breadwallet directly. That's the responsibility of Aaron Voisin, my co-founder, and his team. He wishes he was here to meet all of you tonight, and hopefully he'll be able to come back here sometime over the summer, have a more technical discussion. So I hope most of you are familiar with breadwallet. I'm excited to say that within the next 24 hours, we'll be releasing an update in about a half dozen languages, including Japanese. And thanks to Jonathan and many of you who helped with the Japanese translation, we very much appreciate that. So our vision with breadwallet is to be the starting point for new users to Bitcoin. We're really trying to build a solution that is designed for mainstream use and really trying to break through the glass ceiling that is the current Bitcoin adoption, which is largely relegated to folks like ourselves who are enthusiasts or early adopters. In order to do that, we believe there's two main principles that will drive mass consumer adoption. One is intuitive, simple design. Very much like Google originally came into a very crowded search market, the intuitive design, which is still largely the same today, with a single form and a button or two, right, is what really drove their success. So for those of you who have used breadwallet, you probably know there's really largely just two screens, send and receive money. It couldn't get much easier than that, right? And the other thing is safety, right? We believe that using Bitcoin has to be as easy as using your credit card or cash that you would use today. And that's why when we built breadwallet, we did so in a serverless manner, whereby the app is a direct node on the Bitcoin network, connecting directly to the network, which means there's no servers that can get hacked or go down, meaning that you might lose access to your money temporarily or permanently. In fact, I store all of my Bitcoin in breadwallet because we believe it is the safest solution accessible in the mainstream wallet space today. So thanks again for the opportunity to be here. Look forward to meeting all of you individually after the panel.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Ben from Ninki Wallet.
Hi, my name is Ben. I basically work on a project called Ninki Wallet. It's kind of a side project that grew into something bigger than expected. Well, when we first started to want to do something with Bitcoin, we wanted to build kind of ambitious kind of financial services, but we quickly realized that unless you had the foundation of a wallet there to be able to kind of coordinate and sign transactions, you were kind of at a loose end. So we started to build a wallet foundation to try and deliver some of these kind of financial services. So what we have up to today is a multi-signature wallet, which is a 2 or 3 multi-sig wallet. So the end user has 2 of the keys, and we have 1 of them, which gives the end user complete control, but means that there's no real single point of failure on their device. It runs on pretty much any environment, so it runs as a Chrome app, so it can run on Windows, Linux, Mac, Chrome, OS obviously, and we also have mobile, so it can run on Android and iOS. So one of the things we're trying to do, and I think that's different from other wallets, is we allow people to build a network, so we allow people to connect the wallets together or to connect to other people within the wallet. And we try and do this in a trustless way, so you can connect with other people and coordinate transactions with each other without having to trust our server. And one of the other things we're trying to do is remove the need for people to use Bitcoin addresses. So you can, once you've connected with each other on Ninki, you don't need to exchange Bitcoin addresses every time you do a transaction anymore. So everyone's kind of aware, or most people are aware, that you shouldn't use addresses for privacy and some security reasons. So we wanted to try and solve that problem. And also kind of security problems related to people. If you aren't going to reuse addresses, what are you going to do? You're going to send them to each other in the clear again and again and again by email or unencrypted chat. So we wanted to try and solve those problems. And from a UI, UX perspective, we wanted Bitcoin to be as simple as kind of touching on the person you want to send, entering an amount, and pressing send. So that was really, what we set out to build as a platform. So yeah, and then we kind of have that in place now. We've been kind of iterating and working for about a year or so with the Bitcoin community. So we're really looking to see over the next year, now we have that foundation there, what kind of exciting Bitcoin and blockchain specific things we can build on top of that. And yeah, we're very much just focused on building things within Bitcoin and within the blockchain world, not dealing with the fiat side of things at all, or exchange side of things. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much, Ben. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start with some questions, and I'm going to start with this question, which I will ask to all 3 of you, and whoever has an answer can answer first, and you guys can talk to each other, kind of interject or whatever you feel like. So lately, the ability to securely store Bitcoins has gotten easier and easier for the average user. However, we still have a long way to go. In regards to usability, what do you think is the best way to let the average Joe experience Bitcoin with the least friction possible? Anyone who wants to answer that can go ahead and talk on the mic.
Well, from our perspective, I think, as I was saying before, Jonathan, we think that the user experience is absolutely the most important thing. Nailing that so that someone who is unfamiliar with not only Bitcoin, but might not even be tech savvy, right, is table stakes really for Bitcoin to go mainstream. If you look at some of the user experiences, some of the very popular mobile apps that are out there today, you just find simplicity at the core of all of it, right? An intuitive design where just by playing with the app alone, the user can learn about its usefulness and how to use it. There's a lot of us who say that, in the ideal, perhaps, scenario, consumers are using Bitcoin without even knowing that they're using Bitcoin, right? Relegated to more of a protocol and less of a, something that's out there and in their face may ultimately be the solution that really goes through to consumer adoption. The other thing, too, is like I was saying before, the security. I mean, it just can't even be a risk. It's just got to be something that is absolute and built into the system, right? Using multi-sig and things like that Ben's talking about, absolutely necessary, not the kind of thing we want to expose to anybody, right? We can all know what that means, but that's just got to be built in under the hood, right? None of that kind of stuff can come out in the wide-scale consumer space. Another friction point, I think, for a lot of services that are out there today on the exchange side, too, is account creation. It's almost as bad as going to a bank and opening a bank account. And if if you read on Reddit all the things going on with Coinbase and all the monitoring and all these other things imposed by the US government and other entities, it doesn't really, frankly, feel a hell of a lot like Bitcoin. It feels a hell of a lot like the US dollar these days, right? And that's why we're big believers in decentralization. I think it's just so incredibly ironic that the most well-funded Bitcoin companies, in large part, especially in the US, are basically just recreating centralized banks that happen to allow you to hold the balance in dollars, or excuse me, in Bitcoin. I think that's driving consumer adoption. I think that's very helpful in that sense, but I think ultimately what will become the mainstream product is something that is truly decentralized. And that's why in the architecture for breadwallet, we're connecting directly to the network and really trying to embody that decentralization.
That's very interesting. So Ben or Jonathan, I know both of your services run through a centralized server in some aspect. No, it doesn't? Okay.
So both are on. So both on iOS and Android are native SPV wallets, so they connect directly to the Bitcoin network, and your private key is always on your device. We have some extra, because of the way we're doing our architecture, we have extra features so that you can use push notifications, and you can so you have push notifications and you have pay from web as well. But this is all stuff to make it more convenient for users who are coming in from outside Bitcoin, and they're used to this kind of.
So it's kind of like a hybrid. Like the Bitcoin side is decentralized, but you've got kind of like the exchange stuff in there that's kind of centralized.
Yeah, absolutely. We're standing in the middle. So we have the ideology of your private key is your private key, but we connect to centralized services like exchanges to make it easier for the user.
Okay. All right. What about Ninki Wallet?
Yeah, so Ninki Wallet isn't decentralized. It has a central server. The kind of philosophy behind Ninki Wallet is you don't have to trust the server. So the approach wasn't to try and be decentralized, it was trying to be trustless is not a good, is the word everyone uses, which I don't think is very descriptive, because if you tell someone don't worry, it's completely trustless, they think it's not trustworthy. But the idea is you don't have to trust our server, so we use cryptography and various protocols which can be verified by looking at our open source code to mean that the server doesn't have to be trusted. So we never see the private keys. When any addresses or transactions get handed off from the server, or any data gets handed off from one person to another within Ninki, everything is kind of encrypted and signed and provably so. So that was kind of the design goal of Ninki. And the thinking is that if we're going to do a pure wallet, then I think the breadwallet model is excellent, and that's what you want to do. But
We have the same model.
You have the same model, yeah. But our original goal, and still a goal in the future, is to kind of bring people together to coordinate kind of more potentially complicated transactions. So to try and do something to try and do that in a decentralized way right now, I think is way too ambitious, and just would end up being one of those projects that doesn't get delivered, and just stays as a white paper. So I think centralized services and components have a part to play. It might not end up being existing in 20 years when there's decentralized solutions for everything, but I think they can provide a lot of value as long as you stay true to the idea that you don't have to trust these centralized services with your money.
It's very interesting. On the note with usability and talking about account creation, I believe Adam was talking about that. I have a question for each of you. Each of your wallet services, do you know how many taps it takes until the user can send Bitcoin on your wallet from when they download the app? Can you kind of count that in your head a little bit?
Have you counted them, Jonathan?
No, I have not. I have not actually. But I can tell you probably breadwallet's not a lot.
Actually, it's not a small number. That's because it walks you through the user interface initially, right, with all those little orange bubbles. to kind of educate the user, presuming that they don't know squat about Bitcoin yet. So yeah, plus with the recovery phrase and all that kind of stuff, it's got to be at least 15 or so taps. So yeah, that's a good point though.
So what about Ninki Wallet?
Well, Ninki Wallet's kind of was notorious for having way too much friction in the account creation. And it still will do in the Chrome app, because you think people are at the desktop there, they're sat down, they've got access to a printer, a paper, all that kind of stuff. It's fine. A mistake we made with the mobile release was, originally the mobiles were just getting paired with the Chrome app, and that was kind of fine. It's just one-time pair. And then people were saying, why can't we create an account? So we kind of bolted the same sign up we had on the Chrome app onto the mobile, which was a big mistake, because it was just far too difficult for people to sign up. So in the next release of the mobile, which should be later this month, we actually, we have a release candidate. We've spent a lot of time and actually got some really good idea from Jonathan over here to figure out a way to basically remove all the friction from that and make it really easy to sign up. And then at the user's convenience, there's an upgrade path to full security, and then a path back to the Chrome app to have full redundancy, etc. So we're quite excited about that. And I just counted in my head, and maybe it's, I don't know, 5 or 6.
Nice.
I don't know, I might be lying.
What about LUXSTACK?
I think we probably win that because we have instant onboarding. There's no account you need to make. You just go create a new wallet. And once you get there, we don't have buttons to explain what's going on because it's kind of easy to understand, so we don't need the buttons. Yeah, so you drop into it. I think, so one click to create your wallet, one press to scan a QR code, one press on to send, and then Touch ID on iOS. So it's like 4.
How did you get your Bitcoin?
You said to send.
You showed the QR code.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
So that's not a tap.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
a show.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that is a wonderful answer. So I think we're going to move on to the next question now, which you guys kind of touched on a little bit when talking about the usability aspect. This is about security. Digital security is a topic that many people getting paid millions of dollars in salaries have been working on for over 20 to 40 years. What are the digital security developments you are looking forward to or hoping for in both Bitcoin and non-Bitcoin IT security spaces? And how do you think they will impact Bitcoin wallets in the future? Anyone can speak up. You could also just talk about general Bitcoin security.
I mean, one thing, like as a general technology development, I would like to see is even more important for Bitcoin, I think, than any other software, than most other software, is the delivery mechanism. How do we get code onto people's devices, and how do people know that the integrity of that code is there? Like, how do they know it hasn't been replaced with something else? How do they know the code that's running on their devices, what they think it is? And I think this is a problem that's been around. I certainly don't have a solution for this. I think this is a problem that's been around since computing. Yeah. And the kind of benchmark in the open source world is you open source the code, you create the binaries, you sign the binaries, people verify the signature against the binaries, etc. And there's all kind of computer science essays out there. Well, what about the compiler? Who's verified the compiler? Who's you can go all the way down the chain. The web is kind of awful for delivering code. Even most open source software is kind of signed and delivered via the web. So has anyone compromised that site? Has anyone compromised the signing keys? Has anyone compromised the GitHub account or whatever, or where the code is? Some sites deliver things via the web, so they're delivering JavaScript directly to the browser. So every time you go to the site, there's potentially different code being delivered. Nothing's being signed. Google and Apple have come up with some kind of solutions to this. So the Chrome apps and the Chrome App Store is an attempt to provide kind of automated delivery of signed code, so that the end user doesn't have to check the signature. The Chrome engine will do that for them, which is a step in the right direction. And Apple have an amazing kind of walled garden delivery system. As an Apple user, you're kind of trusting Apple, right? You're saying I trust Apple. So and Google have the Play Store as well, which is similarly, you would need access to the Play Store. There's a signing key. Binaries can be verified, but there's just so many different solutions all over the place. It would be amazing if somebody came up with a one way of doing it that everybody trusted.
You can see with desktop apps like on OS X, they're moving to a more restricted kind of mobile device style thing where your app is in its own special space and it can't attack anybody else. So I think we'll see that more on the desktop, but web is still a bit terrifying. Yeah. Web is not the best place to be.
Yeah, and especially with JavaScript, you could have tons of malware. The other day I actually went back to my mom's house in Arizona, and I used her laptop. Scariest computing experience I've had in a very long time. Yeah. You open up a new tab in Chrome, and like a million pop-ups come up, and you're just like, yeah, I don't want to mess with Bitcoin on this computer.
And you know what? Most users are like your mom.
Exactly.
That's scary.
So how do we secure their Bitcoins, Jonathan?
It's all about the mobile device, and I think breadwallet knows it too.
That's right.
This is the most secure place to put a Bitcoin private key.
Absolutely.
You can hide it behind Touch ID. It's not going anywhere. None of the other apps can attack it. We think it's the best place to put the private key. Yeah, and then you can add convenience on top of that, but don't just let the private keys go. Yeah.
And then we got to get that on Android. And so, we started with breadwallet on iOS because it is the most malware-hardened mobile platform, right? Google chose not to basically provide, middleware and APIs to enable use of the ARM microcontroller's trusted execution environment, like Apple did with the Secure Enclave, which is fantastic technology. There's a whole host of other companies like Ribbits, who are very Bitcoin-focused, who are creating those layers on the Android systems to enable sandboxing of apps and direct screen access and things like this, so that Bitcoin wallets can basically be as secure on Android, or even potentially more secure than they can be on iOS. I love the Secure Enclave model on iOS. We actually tried with breadwallet on a iPhone, I forget what it was, maybe a 5S or whatever, jailbreaking the device, and the Secure Enclave is wiped just like Apple said it would be. So, really, really great technology. You guys, all know too that we're really big into open source, and we kind of made a commitment to the community to always keep the core of our wallet open source, because, anything that's closed source to me, you just don't know. Somebody could have, be playing the long con, right? And they've got some code in there, and 10, 15 years down the road, when each Bitcoin is worth, $1 million, suddenly everything disappears, right? So it's really difficult to trust that kind of thing with digital money. It's the perfect vehicle to steal, right? That said, I don't think the average consumer gives a crap about open source, right? I think that's got to be, impregnated in, kind of like what you're saying, Ben, where like in the case of the Chrome extension or whatever, the browser can automatically verify that it's the actual code and all this stuff. But back to your original question, relative to like the security features, I think you guys got it right with multi-sig for sure. I think that's an important factor in the future of Bitcoin wallets. I think the multi-sig provider needs to have fraud detection algorithms, spending limits, all sorts of stuff like that to further mitigate risk. But I think all of that needs to be abstracted away. All the complexity of that needs to be abstracted away from the user, right? We got to keep thinking Google. You hit that search button in Google, untold things happen, right? Just the complexity of what they're doing in a simple search that comes back like that is truly, hard to believe. We need to get up to that level of sophistication, right? Because us as wallet providers, we frankly are not competing with each other. We're competing with Square. We're competing with Apple Pay. Right? We need a mobile point of sale experience that actual consumers will use, not just those of us in this room who think Bitcoin is really cool, right? So I think we got to think a lot bigger than just just Bitcoin. I think we've got to think much more about the mainstream consumer experience of purchasing on a day-to-day basis, whether brick and mortar or online.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Actually, recently, Dave was just talking about how at Disrupt New York, they did a presentation on Case Wallet with the device that does the multi-sig between the Case device, the Case service, and then also Andreas Antonopoulos' new company, Third Key Solutions. They're going to be holding the third key for the Case wallets by default. Apparently in their FAQ, they say that the user can opt to hold the third key and back it up on their own, but they will not provide any tools to help that. So you pretty much need to be a programmer in order to utilize that feature. But I think it's very interesting how they're going with the multi-sig model, and yet they aren't giving the user full access to the keys by giving them two keys. They're only giving them one key by default. So I kind of wanted to ask you, Ben, on what you thought about that, about having, instead of being like your model where you have one key and the user has two keys, giving them an option to have the third key be with a non-Ninki Wallet, third party that deals with handling keys. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's something we discussed quite a while ago when we were thinking about this model, because obviously we're thinking about how can we not hassle the user to have to write down two keys, right? Ideally, you can say, this is your one key, if you have this, you're good. And in an emergency, here's the procedure which they read when the emergency comes along. And at the time, there was no kind of provider. The third key just started up maybe a few weeks ago. Again, it's risk and reward, right? The reward is a smoother user experience, less stress for them, less things they have to think about, less things they have to write down, one less mistake for them to make. On the flip side, you've then got kind of counterparty risk to third key and the wallet provider. You've got risk of collusion by them. You've got risk of, I suppose you've got, your risk is kind of hedged for either of them screwing up, but you have the risk of, let's say, a government agency comes along and subpoenas both of them because they've both been involved in some other account and says, no, you can't do anything. You're just left with your one key. So you're providing probably a smoother UX and sign up, but a kind of the tail event user experience could be you lose your coins, which is the worst user experience possible.
Yeah.
You don't care about a few extra clicks when you just lost $10,000.
Good point. Okay, so I think we will move on to the next question now, unless any of you guys have any more to say about Bitcoin security. I guess not. So we will move to the next question, which is actually related to what you were just talking about, open and closed source. So a cornerstone of Bitcoin as a technology is that it is open source. Anyone can view the code and ensure that it is not stealing their Bitcoins. However, services like Coinbase and Circle have shown that closed source approaches to Bitcoin management are not something to ignore. How do you view the evolution of open source wallets in comparison to closed source wallets and vice versa? Also, if you could explain what your predictions will mean for the average Joe, that would be appreciated.
I guess you already know my opinion on it since I kind of
Yeah,
said
you
it, so.
pretty much answered that question with your last part.
I mean, I think kind of the whole point of Bitcoin is it gives people control of their money. But if I put that aside, that kind of philosophical bit aside, I have no problem with closed source wallets that manage the private keys. Fine, you're already managing the private keys. Doesn't really matter if it's closed or open source. You have it. They're trusting you. There's terms and agreements. You're basically saying the legal system will protect me. So I don't have any problem with that. But I think if you're telling someone you have control of your Bitcoins, we don't have your private keys, we have no access to them, then it has to be open source. So I think those two models are basically inextractable.
Do you really think the legal system will protect you, though?
No. I don't. That's what.
In terms of service.
Yeah, I mean, That's what. Yeah, I think it's a mistake, and I wouldn't hold a lot of bitcoins at an exchange or a Coinbase or anywhere like that. But people who do, that's what they're relying on. That's their core, right? And if that's the process they're relying on, and that code is closed source, I don't. You know, the bigger problem is the fact you're relying on them, not the fact that the code is closed source.
That's true. But maybe there's two things here. There's the do you trust the company to do what they're saying they're doing, and in the case of something like Coinbase, are they just going to take your coin for some reason, whatever? And I think if it's a company, then they are going to do what they say they're doing because the risk is too great. Like their income comes from treating their customers right, so you're not going to treat your customers wrong because they'll disappear and go somewhere else. So yeah, I think for that, and if you've got a wallet where you hold your own keys and you have a recovery key, then I think you can trust that wallet because it's backed by a company and it's not going to do bad things to your money.
So you're basically saying that so going back to the question, kind of like closed source wallets are going to be more like open source wallets in the future? Or I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to say there. You're saying that if the company gives you access to your keys so that you can take your bitcoins out of their wallet whenever you please,
yes.
Then why do we need to make our source open source? Is that what you're saying?
So when in the same way, yeah. So you have access to your own bitcoins. You always have that control. So if the company that you're dealing with, and I think that's important. If it's just a guy doing something, a part-time job, you don't know, they could change the software or whatever. But if it's a company and you have this portability, then you if anything's going wrong with the company, then you can move somewhere else.
What if it's too late? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know anything more than any of you here, but there's a lot of rumors about Mt. Gox being kind of an inside job. So what about if at one of those companies that you speak of, there's a disgruntled employee who has commit access to the repo, who slips in some code to run away with all the customers' funds? Then what? The company is liable for that, obviously, I'm sure. But still, I mean, from the user's point of view, even if they're insured up to X amount of bitcoins or X amount of US dollars worth of bitcoins, I'm sure they won't like going through all the litigation to get that money back, as many of you here may already know with Mt. Gox and all this.
I mean, I would also add, like, even if the company has, good intentions, and one of the great things about open source is the amount of other eyes that are on the code. I mean, people make mistakes, developers make mistakes. Open source libraries that you might have used in the closed source code, that they find vulnerabilities in it, they get reported, they get communicated, and they can get patched. And so it's also it's also open source because people want to look at the code and verify it. People want to your average consumer obviously isn't going to do that, but there's elders, if you like, within the Bitcoin community who will review it and give it their approval. And if anyone tries to do anything overtly wrong or has made huge errors, they will get called out on it. And one thing I've been amazed with this Ninki being my first open source project previously, I was always developing for companies, is the amount of people that do actually look at the code and send you emails and flame you on Reddit for making mistakes. And it's hard, but it makes your code better and it makes you a better programmer, knowing that they're looking at it.
I think one of the things that some of these closed source wallet solutions like Coinbase try to do is tout things like insurance. But if you actually peel back the onion and look at what they're promising you, they don't actually insure against some of the things that would be potentially most disastrous, such as what you were saying before with the malware. They don't actually insure against malware on your desktop hijacking your session after you've completed your fancy two-factor authentication and everything and sending your Bitcoin to a rogue address. nothing more frustrating than being able to see that in the blockchain and know that it was right there and now it's gone and nothing you can do about it, right? They also don't insure against man-in-the-middle attacks or phishing attacks, malicious Tor exit nodes, this type of thing, right? So, I think that it's not quite as good as it sounds. And just another reason why I would never keep my Bitcoin in a place like Coinbase, not to mention all the US government monitoring and all that crap as well.
There has been a couple of closed source wallets that tell you have control of your keys. So there was Fever a while ago, I don't know if anyone remembers them, but if you look on the forums, they ran into a brick wall of people saying, nope, you're closed source. And I looked the other day and there hasn't been an update to their app for over a year or something. And the other one is Wiper, I think. Wiper is a chat application it looks suspiciously like breadwallet.
Not to mention Telegram.
Telegram, yeah. So they're closed source and they kind of forked breadwallet, I'm guessing, because it's just breadwallet. And
Violation of our license agreement.
Violation of your license agreement. And they kind of stuck it in there that, you play around with it and it's great, but then you're like, they could be just generating those keys deterministically. What do I know, right? They've got a single root key somewhere and they're just waiting. And exactly like you said, it could be the long con, and Bitcoin has a list this long. I mean, literally, there's a website with 2,000 Bitcoin scam services on it called badbitcoin.org. I think it is.
Yeah, I think the difference is if that company is making money, then they've got a long history. There's a reason for them to not scam you.
Right.
Well, let's not forget that Mt. Gox had the longest history in all of Bitcoin companies and was making quite a bit of money off of their exchange services. But I understand what you're talking about with the incentives being aligned. But it's just a scary world that we live in with a lot of opportunities for theft. And I think it goes back to what Ben was talking about with secure delivery of code. The internet is not as secure as many people would lead you to believe. And in addition to that, your company or whatever, your open source project that you have a bunch of buddies that you work with online, and is not as secure as you think it is. People slip in things and try to make obfuscated bugs that they sneak into open source stuff as well, and people figure that out and fix it after the fact. But it's a very scary world we live in, and I think it's the best question to do is, what's the most secure way to ensure that people aren't being affected by that type of theft. So I guess kind of the vibe that I'm getting is open source is pretty good for ensuring that that people's funds aren't being stolen. But at the same time, incentives mixed with some closed source stuff can also be, maybe if the laws and the kind of the legal system catches up with cryptocurrency, might be something that's viable in the future. Kind of sounds like the vibe that I'm getting.
One thing I just want to say is, with the Apple App Store and Google Play, you have no idea whether the code that's being released is actually what's being given. So, with breadwallet, I think it's a good wallet. It's not doing anything suspicious, but you don't know that their open source code actually matches what's being said. I'm sure it is. But
there's actually technology coming out that allow people to do that. But
if
the average person's
Apple
not going to do it. Yeah.
Waiting for Apple to deliver on promises.
I think it's just the right approach for Bitcoin to take, because I think those problems will be solved, and that was my kind of wish for technological innovation. But the danger is, say, if closed source becomes the norm, it just makes it so much easier for scam companies to set up. And if we make that the norm, then if you only need a few companies, or a company acquires another company closed source, and then starts running the scam.
Right? That happens all the time with extensions. Right. They buy the extensions and put malware
just for the purpose of malware.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's as an approach, I'd say open source Bitcoin.
But I'd like to say, as Bitcoin matures, I don't think we can expect larger companies producing open source wallets. Like if
Android's open source.
What about something like Android or Mac OS, where the main OS is open source, but the stuff on top of that isn't necessarily open source? So like, you know, the core modules. So like maybe for your wallet, so like the Bitcoin part of the source, like maybe you could open source that, but then you could, you know, close source the exchange part, you know, something like that. Similar to what OS X does. You know, I think that's also viable.
That's the model we're working down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So are you planning any closed source add-ons to your app anytime soon?
Well, the actual app that gets compiled and put onto the phone will be fully open source.
Okay.
And what we're looking at is ways to pull in, for example, in an exchange connection, certain functionality off of a server-based system, not server-based in the context of the Bitcoin or anything, but functionality off of there to pull in for an interface into certain exchanges. And the idea behind that is that, for example, we may be using a private API that the exchange has provided to us, or a private API that someone like Facebook has provided to us that we just can't put into the open source code. But we could put you know, something on our server, you know, basically information that allows a module within breadwallet to go and process that information and effectively learn how to communicate with that exchange dynamically. It also provides us more flexibility to be able to add additional exchanges or service providers without having to release an updated version of the app every time.
Okay. With that, we are going to move on to the last question, and then after that, we're going to have some Q&A and discussion time to kind of talk about whatever it is that you guys are looking to talk about. We can also cover these questions if any of you guys have some stuff that you want to talk about. So the last question is going to be about business models for wallets. So far, the number of Bitcoin wallet services that have turned a profit thus far is unclear, but I can bet you I have more fingers than are necessary to count them. What are your thoughts on the business model for wallet services, both open and closed source? If you would also touch on the business plan of your that you envision for your wallet, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I could talk a little bit about the business model that we're taking for LUXSTACK, and then I'll get. So we, as I said before, we're connecting to exchanges, and we're allowing one-click sign up to new exchanges. When you, as Ben said, when you come to the wallet for the first time, of course you don't have any Bitcoin. So what you can do is you will go to the settings menu to connect an exchange, and you'll have a list of exchanges in your region that you can choose from. And if you click on one of those exchanges, it will pop up with an advertisement. And our profit model is, if you'd like to be on that page, then you can pay, just like AdWords, to appear, to put your advertisement on that page. And if you increase the amount you pay, then you go higher up the list and you get a larger ad and you get more onboarding. So it's worth it for your region. And we have one other way that we're making some income that we're talking about right now, which is right here at the top we have markets and timeline and send, but we're adding a new column which is shop. And in shop we're going to have a list of higher priced items, like around the $100, $200 mark. So maybe fashion or glasses or handbags, that kind of thing. And we are going to sell for a big discount these items in Bitcoin. So there's an incentive for users to buy Bitcoin on the exchanges because they're getting a huge discount, and also the companies that are advertising, so they're paying for an ad on this shop page, will be able to get the income from those sales as well. So
that's pretty cool. Our model is similar but different. That is, when it comes to buying Bitcoin initially, like we all know, needs to be a function in wallets, especially in our case, trying to be the starting point for new users to Bitcoin. So we're adding functionality now so that a user can buy Bitcoin with a credit card, ACH transfer in the US, other things of that sort, through partnerships with exchanges and credit card processors. Instead of providing a list of exchanges, though, along that notion of abstracting out the complexity, we believe that the average consumer, doesn't have the time or, care about which exchange you're buying through. What they care about is that they can buy Bitcoin effectively, right? And so we have and are building additional relationships with exchanges all over the globe. So no matter where our breadwallet user is, we basically can enable them to buy through an exchange that is licensed to operate in their geography. And in some cases, like in North America, for instance, we may have Coinbase and Circle and others, and we will just automatically choose for them the exchange that will give them the best rate at that given time, right? More than likely, largely due to compliance, we will have to probably show the user which exchange they are buying through. But the point is, we don't want to show them, give them those options. We believe that that just creates more friction. And in the average consumer experience, you know, I don't think that's very constructive in that sense. So our model is a little bit different. Instead of, you know, that kind of ranking thing like you're talking about, Jonathan, in this sense, we're sort of front-ending the exchanges, right? So the model for breadwallet is to be this thin layer that basically sits on top of all of these other financial services providers, such as exchanges. And exchanges are just the first one, okay? So these guys like Coinbase and others, they're spending tens of millions of dollars on compliance. That is not in our business plan, okay? We would be much happier letting all these other companies invest all of that venture capital, right, into all of these compliance things. And then we just simply front end those exchanges, right? What's really cool about that model is instead of being like Coinbase, who can operate in some states in the US and now in the UK, we can operate completely globally, right? And build a really global, decentralized bank effectively, right? And empower the individual to control their own money, right? And so then when you go into breadwallet soon, and you buy your Bitcoin through the exchange, which is a partner of ours in your geography, what happens is the exchange naturally charges a fee, usually like 1%, 0.5%, plus a spread, right? Well, how that works. Since we're basically providing them with a new customer, they basically pay us a component of their margin effectively. So we can get, and it varies between 10% and in some cases 75% of the fees that they would charge. Depends on how hungry the exchange is for new business, right? A lot of the tier 2s are very hungry for business. And increasingly, a lot of exchanges are providing the level of APIs that we need to really do this and truly front end them. And that means not only having a transaction programmatically through an API, but even new account creation and full-on KYC verification as well. And when you layer in some of these really cool services like Jumio or Authentics, where you can just simply take a photograph on your smartphone of your passport, your driver's license, your ID card, whatever you happen to have, right? It just makes it really easy to onboard. So anyway, that's our monetization model. The exchanges are just the beginning. There's a lot of other financial services, but I think we're running out of time.
This is the hardest question for me to answer. So, I mean, I personally think like if you want to make money kind of now, then to make money in Bitcoin, you have to be involved in the cash in, cash out aspects of it. So you have to be an exchange, a payment processor, if they're making money, I don't know, or involved in some kind of gray area, which normally involves purchasing, cashing in and out via Bitcoin. Our kind of goals are kind of more long term. So I mean, at some point there has to be some kind of Bitcoin economy, and there has to be a compelling reason for your average Joe to use Bitcoin, which I don't think exists at the moment. And what we hope to do is to try and basically use this platform that we've built to experiment and research and try and build some applications that are purely Bitcoin blockchain based to try and see if we can do things that aren't possible with cash and aren't possible in the current system. And so, which is a lot longer game. So we wouldn't expect to make any revenue anytime soon from that.
All right, sounds great. So we were originally planning to do about 15 minutes of Q&A, but I guess we have a little extra time, so we'll do about 20 minutes of Q&A, and then we'll be done at exactly 9. So anyone who has any questions can come up and ask away. Apparently, you must sit on this stool here and ask your question to us. So please, if anyone would like to come up to the stool and ask a question, And yeah, okay.
Jimmy.
And Jimmy.
I'm not sure it's a proper question for you. The blockchain.info raised 20 or 30 million US dollars a year ago, and I'm not seeing any progress. Can you imagine how they are spending 30 million?
I think we should ask Roger.
Is Roger in the house?
Just right on.
Well, no, I can answer.
Oh, can't answer. Oh,
I
man.
can.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, if you guys are interested.
All right, definitely. If you would like to come down and answer, that
I have to sit on the stool.
yeah. Well, you can sit in my chair. Sit in my chair. Sit in my chair and answer.
So the good part about raising $30 million is you raise $30 million. The bad part is that a whole bunch of additional attention and jump hoops that you have to jump through and all sorts of things like that come along with it. So a lot of the time's been taking up with that. But now the blockchain team is around 30 people total full time. Looking at the website and the mobile apps, you wouldn't necessarily know that. But in the next, hopefully sooner rather than later, maybe within the next month or so, some real major revisions of those apps are going to be released, including the HD wallets and a number of different things. So like people are really, really, really hard at work in the background there. But when you have 3-point-something million wallets, and they're going to upgrade to a different wallet format, to HD wallets, you can't have anything go wrong. Everybody's money is on the line, so it takes a lot of time and testing and effort to make sure everything's done just right. So they're working very hard behind the scenes. Someday we'll see some progress from the $30 million, but things move slowly. So that's up.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have any questions? Thank you. Sure. If you want to come down here, I'll give you a mic to use.
But the $30 million did buy 3 stickers, so there's stickers up there. If anyone does want to pay $30 million for an HD wallet, I've got one for you.
Okay, so in different ways, you guys are all trying to broaden adoption from this sort of 1% of very techy users that we've got. And obviously, there are a lot of hurdles and a lot of problems that you've got to solve before the regular users can actually, use this thing safely. What kind of timeframes, realistically, do you think we're looking at? How long is it going to take until, his mum or around, or more users can use Bitcoin with confidence?
That's $1 million question, isn't it?
I would say, we're kind of in a kind of research and development stage, if you like. It's really unknown. Bitcoin currently is used by, there's a few distinct groups of real use cases out there, plus a community of enthusiasts, who use it regularly. Now, were Bitcoin to be adopted by regular people en masse, we really are moving into unknown territory, right? We know what's out there at the moment. We know roughly how many thefts there are, how many people lose their keys or don't write them down. I mean, there's some interesting data that came out of, there was another wallet that did a iOS release, and they had some troubles with it. They had to get in contact with their users to make sure they didn't lose their keys. So there was, I think there was 100 people affected, there was 50 people affected that they contacted. Out of those 50, how many wrote down their keys?
None.
3. And this is not everyday users. This is Bitcoin enthusiasts, right? Some of them had over $2,000 in that. So, if it does go bit quickly, we really are into unknown territory here. We don't know whether, what currently is the most secure, best wallet within the Bitcoin community is going to hack it out there. We really don't know. We don't know if, the kind of bread wallet model of being through the wall garden on the Apple device with the chip is the way to go, or multi-sig is the way to go. There really isn't that information out there. So I think what's great is that there's lots of variety of approaches out there. So that if and when mass adoption does happen, one model will win. And who's to say that isn't Circle or Coinbase's model, right? Who knows?
I just want to say that the bread wallet iOS model of the securing tech is exactly what we use. This is the best way to keep Bitcoin safe.
one of the use cases that I think is really interesting for consumer adoption is this notion that buying a Bitcoin is going to help you come retirement, right? The notion that you're speculating on the price of Bitcoin and making an investment of today, 230, 240 US dollars, right, is money that you're willing to effectively possibly throw away, but you're gambling effectively that the value of Bitcoin will go up. I would like to see a company, whether it's a wallet company or someone else, that really messages this as a retirement vehicle, right? Everybody should own one Bitcoin. Now, we all know there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoins, right? The average person doesn't know that. All the better if we try to encourage everybody to own one Bitcoin, because we know what'll happen, right? Value will skyrocket, right? That's an interesting speculative play that sort of goes around this notion, which is this, what is the silver bullet for consumer adoption, right? What's it going to be? I do like your model, Jonathan, with like the flash sales and everything. I mean, or the purse.io model. These things that try to drive consumer adoption are really cool. But this whole like retirement savings speculation thing, I think, is an interesting one as well.
Very interesting.
And yes, and adding all the exciting features that users are looking for, like
Apple Watch,
Android Wear.
Nice.
So yeah, make it a really nice experience for you.
All right. Any other questions or things you want to ask? Sure. Come on.
Hello. Hello. My name is breadwallet. I think I'm the most secure wallet.
Your usability.
Is your first name Paper?
That's my
Do you have push notifications?
Oh wow.
He's working on it.
You can fold me into an airplane. Notify me there.
No need to tap right to stop. Oh, by the way, there's a kind of program. People don't write down the passwords, so people lose their money after. That happens a lot. Is there any idea for fixing that?
Yeah. So we have a nag screen. So when you go into the wallet, if you haven't written down your recovery seed, it's going to let you know, hey, you haven't written down your recovery seed, please write it down. So so you touch ID and it will show you your seed, and then with a bit of gamification, it will say, hey, what's the first word, what's the last word? And then if you've written that incorrectly, it will kind of be happy, and then 30 days later, it will come back and say, hey, you should probably just let us know that you know this word again. So we have a technique to try and get them through.
I like that technique, and we also try to incentivize the user to have them write down the recovery phrase. But just like you were saying before, I mean, even we are not always doing that, and who knows? Maybe we do write it down, and then we lose a piece of paper, right? So what the hell's the benefit of that, right? So we're looking at other ways to try to help take care of that behind the scenes. One idea, giving away free ideas, is to leverage iCloud for that, right? And to keep a copy of the recovery phrase available and encrypted on iCloud. Of course, you have to trust Apple in that case, right? But they got enough of your other data, presumably, credit card numbers and everything else, right? So that's one idea. And we're looking at other, trusted models that users rely on for other, high-value items as a mechanism to do that as well. I think ultimately relying on anyone to write anything down is going to be difficult in the mainstream market. As much as I love paper wallets and whatnot, that's all really cool, but there's no way that Jonathan's mom is probably gonna do that if she's got her computer full of malware already, right?
Yeah, definitely not writing down any phrases.
Yeah. I read a statistic, actually, it's mind-blowing. I mean, with all due respect to all of us, right, Bitcoin is like this big in the global financial situation, right, or global world of money. Yet 30% of all malware created today is designed specifically to steal Bitcoin. Wow. Most of which is on the desktop, some of which is on Android, right? I would hope none of which is on iOS, at least I haven't read about any of it. So, it's a perfect theft, right? No chargebacks, nothing like that, right? So take the money and run. So we got to be really, really careful about that, because the truth is that, like I said before, a lot of people are like Jonathan's mom, and even Jonathan's mom uses money, so we got to provide secure solutions for the real world.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So, any other questions? Sure. Go. Come on ahead.
Hi, thank you very much for your speech. And I'd like to ask, so nowadays there are quite a lot, or quite a few Bitcoin wallets exist in the world. So how do you try to actually advertise your wallet or your product to people, or do you have any targeted segments to appealing your product, or I'm not sure even which customer or merchant are very interested in Bitcoin. I'm personally interested in it's something new, and I feel some future, but it's not really spread yet. So I wanted to know how you try to open up the market.
That's a really good question. You get that question a lot from investors or would-be investors, right? breadwallet is pretty consistently number 3 in the App Store behind Coinbase and blockchain.info. We feel pretty good about that because they've both raised a ton of money, and up until a couple weeks ago, we were in a pre-funded situation. Now we've raised the initial part of our seed round. So, and then Circle comes after that, and other well-funded companies. And for us, it's largely been word of mouth. Awesome people like you guys who like it and who refer their friends and family to it as a place to get started with Bitcoin. So we really appreciate that. Thank you. But ultimately, that ain't gonna go mainstream, right? Because there are only so many of us out there to try to push Bitcoin on the world, right? I feel like the best way to promote wallets is to partner with other companies that have mass communities of users, right? Facebook, obviously, we're working on something with Facebook. I think you guys are working on something with Facebook too, right? So leveraging into these social media networks and other private networks that have huge high leverage. I think that's the only way that we're really gonna go mainstream, right? We effectively have to have other people do the job for us, right? And it's not just here. I mean, you look at, new fashion brands are created overnight because of social media. Somebody famous wears a new fashion brand, then boom, it blows up, right? It's a perfect example of something like that. So we need to leverage these networks to promote our products, but more importantly, to promote Bitcoin overall.
And I just want to add that it's important to give incentives as well to bring people in. We can't just say Bitcoin. There has to be a reason to use Bitcoin. So I think what we're doing with the shop to say, hey, this is great, let's get discounts. We're not really looking at Bitcoin people for that advertising. We're saying people who are looking for deals for these kind of fashion items, and that kind of expands the amount of people who use Bitcoin as an incentive to bring them in.
Oh, okay, so you already know some of the projects who are accepting the Bitcoin payment.
Yes, so they use Bitcoin to get a discount. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter, but usually in the United States, or
so we're starting in Japan, moving through it. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Because I don't see it in Japan yet, so I don't see so many merchants yet. So not yet, but hopefully soon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, come on up. And if you could give us your name.
Yes. I am Tomoaki. Nice to meet you. Yeah. So, and then I would like to ask, in the middle of next year, the mining fee is down half. In this case, two scenarios. The prices go up, or the miner's motivation is keeping, or the miner is stop the mining and changing to the other altcoins or the other things. So do you communicate with miners or these kind of things? And I'd like to know your prediction for future of price.
Go, Jonathan.
I think for consumer wallets, we're incentivizing people to quickly buy Bitcoin and then use it on the thing they want to buy. So the price isn't so much of an issue. It's kind of a change in philosophy, maybe. So it's early Bitcoin, it's like, let's hold But now moving into the money comes in, you go and buy something, and that's maybe prices still it's becoming less important.
So you keep in the Bitcoin.
So that's kind of many of the older Bitcoin because are thinking about spending it, they're thinking about holding, but maybe as we evolve and it gets more mature and actually used as a currency more and more, we'll see the price is not so relevant because people are holding Bitcoin for a long time.
I think what you're saying is that when people are using it as a means of purchases, right, the volatility will be less. It'll become more stable at that point.
What I'm saying is it becomes less
important. Yeah, about the difficulty. I mean, I think that'll be built in over the next, however many months between now and when that happens. I don't think the miners will go to altcoins though, because I think the altcoin mining incentive is far lower than Bitcoin, even at a reduced price down to, I don't remember what the magic number is that maybe $100 or $150 or something like that. But the other thing you'll probably see is the miners will just, if that happens, the miners will just evolve, right? And they may end up, moving operations to different geographies where they've got better access to lower electricity rates, things of that sort. So, and as a wallet company, we don't work directly with the miners. So, I'm just speculating as good as anybody in this room could right now.
You don't communicate with the miners?
Yeah, no, we really don't, right? The only reason that we would do that is if we were looking for liquidity and enabling like a buy Bitcoin functionality in breadwallet. We looked at several different options to do that. Some market makers / miners is one interesting option. Going through exchanges is another. Because of compliance issues and KYC, AML stuff, it's better to go through exchanges who provide that kind of functionality. The best solution in some cases, however, is to work with an exchange and a miner or a group of miners who will provide enough liquidity directly for our users on the exchange that we're buffered against low liquidity situations at any given exchange. This isn't an issue with big exchanges at Coinbase, who presumably have a lot of liquidity, but it is an issue when you're dealing with exchanges in a small country where the exchange itself is very small. We still are going to have breadwallet users there who we need to serve, but we got to make sure there's enough liquidity there to enable the transactions that our users bring to the exchange. So in that case, we may bring a miner in.
Thank you very much. So with that question, we're going to stop the Q&A, and we've got about 3 minutes left. So I actually want to ask one last question, a very short answer because we only have 3 minutes. Besides the 3 wallets here, what is your favorite Bitcoin wallet? Besides the 3 of you. So I know how much you love Ninki Wallet, but not these 3. Just a quick one-word answer is fine.
It's a tough one. All my money is on my phone in breadwallet. No, I actually think that, well, he said no, he said the exception of us 3. Naturally, I would have said that. No, because I'm a geek and a gadget guy, I think the hardware wallet's really intriguing. I don't think they'll ever go mainstream, right? But the one that was just announced at TechCrunch and then, the Trezor and whatnot, cool stuff just for the geek factor. I think it'd be cool to own something like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to say Trezor as well.
Trezor as well.
I have a Trezor.
Speaking of the mic, please.
I honestly can't think of it.
All right, I'll give you mine. Electrum. I love it. Electrum, yeah. Love Electrum.
Bitcoin Core.
Bitcoin Core. Represent Core. All right, so with this, we are done with the panel discussion for today. It's now 9 p.m. and I'm sure all of the young children in the audience need to go home and go to bed. So I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion, and if you have any other stuff that you would like to talk about, be sure to attend the Tokyo Bitcoin meetup, and a lot of interesting people will be coming. So I hope you had a wonderful time. Thank you very much.
So thank you very